The Deferred Debt Time Bomb. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. I've got my stein of coffee that I'm steadily working through and I thought we'd have a look at this article from the ABC because it highlights, well, an issue that we don't really seem to be talking about that much. Explicitly, the deferred debt that everyone has. Businesses, mortgages, rent. It's going to be a time bomb that's going to affect a lot of people. The number of people that are taking advantage of these mortgage deferrals, of the bank being your touchy-feely friend, is a little disturbing. I'm still surprised at the articles I've read about professionals who are needing to depend on this deferral to keep their home. That just tells you they're right at the edge. They haven't been able to build up a reserve. There's never any mention of people having their own reserve. I guess it's just so hard. People are struggling to save a deposit, let alone have extra money aside for emergency spending. Can you blame people? Or is it just showing a lack of financial literacy in this country? Because why do you need to save? Save by buying a house, negative gearing it, and only paying the interest only. That's how you save, because property always goes up, doesn't it, everyone? Doesn't it? So let's have a look at this one. The dominoes in the Australian economy are stacked in line, and one can easily topple several others. Rental reductions and repayment extensions have helped the Australian economy to keep functioning during the pandemic and have kept our debts at bay. But soon many of these measures will begin to end, and even with the promise of more relief on the way, some of the dominoes of debt could start toppling in the coming months. To understand how debt is affecting us during the pandemic, Background Brief followed one chain of dominoes from a single tenant to his landlord, up to her commercial landlord, and then all the way to the Reserve Bank and the federal government. So this will be interesting. Then there you go. Ticks for that beard, mate. That is a lot of work there. Keeping that. Good work. Good work. I like that. What do you reckon? Think I could pull it off, guys? Already on a rent reduction, but now facing more restrictions. Sean, who rents an apartment with his friend Dee in the North Melbourne suburb of Pascoe Vale, said he was trying to stay positive but finding it tough. I've no idea how I'm going to look for work, he said. And that's the problem. That's the problem. While we are seeing cases of people having trouble finding workers, there are also other people who just lost all hope. Who think, what's the point of even going out there looking for work? Everything's locked down. I can't door knock. I can't do this. One advantage we have as architects, I can work from home. We can work from home. I can do jobs where I only have to go out on site. And there you're outside in the air looking at things. You can do remote meetings. Not everyone has that advantage. He and Dee both lost their jobs at the beginning of the pandemic in March. As a full-time employee, Dee qualified for JobKeeper, but Sean did not. On our last paychecks, both me and Dee sat down and figured out what we could afford or how we could move forward and how we could actually survive this, he said. They approached their landlord, Maria Tuminello, told her they really needed her help, and she agreed to halve their rent for the apartment. I was so relieved. It was just that little bit of weight off the shoulders, he said. Since then, Sean has managed to find a few days a week of labouring work, but he's worried the new shutdown could leave him in a precarious financial position. Well, good on him getting some work. I'll be back in my parents' place, I just imagine. That's what some people are going to have to do, really, to save money. You need to consolidate. This is the thing. This is what I've been saying. People's quality of life, our quality of life is going to go down. You're not going to have the same quality of life as the previous generation. Millennials, Gen Z, it's not going to be as easy as it was for the boomers. It's just a different world. That's how things are. You just have to adapt. You can bitch and moan, or you can look for the opportunities and build up from there. It's not all bad, everyone. There's always opportunities if the government were to get out of the way. So landlords got relief from the banks. Miss Tuminello has her own problems. She's the owner of Vicolo, a cafe in Ascot Vale. She had to close for 10 weeks during the first lockdown. With 2 mortgages to service, one on her home and another on the apartment Sean and Dee live in, she could only afford to halve Sean and Dee's rent because the Commonwealth Bank agreed to give her a break on repayments. We were happy to do that for 6 months. We're just all in limbo waiting to see what happens in September, she said. So, this just shows you they're at the line. They're at the edge. They can't afford to do this. They're just doing it because of the breaks they're getting. She should be selling the apartment right now. She should be cashing out and building up that reserve, paying off that debt to keep her house. What do you think she should do? The Australian Banking Association announced this week that banks would be extending breaks on repayments for some customers past September, but she didn't know for sure what would happen to her repayments. For now, she is planning to keep her cafe open and serve takeaway during the reimposed restrictions. But Miss Tuminello has more bills than just her mortgage. She has to pay rent on her cafe to commercial landlord Gary Harley. He is the next domino in line. We've given her rent relief until business basically gets back to anything like normal, he said. Mr. Harley has been able to do that because the National Australia Bank has given him a break on his mortgage repayments too. Shit. This has the potential to really fall over, doesn't it? Can you see what could happen here? Boom, 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 one after the other. We were able to execute that loan deferral very rapidly. They gave us the ability to make decisions to help tenants, to be honest, he said. But I guess the reckoning is coming. Well, he's right. He knows this can't go on forever. He's been around the blocks. A limit on how long banks can keep deferring repayments. Here's the thing. It should be a lot tougher than it is. Is there going to be an economic bounce back to help that cafe? Or are we going to have, like in another article, where costs of food are skyrocketing and people are using Uber Eats to help local businesses and sending all the money offshore? The banks are the next domino in danger. Australia's banks' capital buffers against bad debt have improved a lot since the GFC. But Rachel Slade, the Group Executive for Personal Banking at the NAB, acknowledges there is a limit to how long deferring mortgage repayments can work. That's because deferred mortgages are still accruing interest and household debts are still getting bigger. There's nothing worse than leaving a customer hanging out there. If we and the customer can see they're not going to come out of the other side of this, Miss Slade said. We're starting to see more talk of that, aren't we? The banks are preparing people for forced sales. And remember, the value of your property, the value of your investment is only is affected by the last sale in the street, the last sale in the suburb. So if you start to see people having to force it, there's going to be an impact. And then if she has to sell a cafe, are there going to be any buyers? If she has to liquefy everything in there, are there going to be any buyers? Are we going to start seeing people walking away? Dr. Berry, CEO of Way Forward, a not-for-profit that helps Australians who are drowning in debt, believes a mountain of debt is being temporarily hidden by repayment holidays and stimulus. The stimulus and the memorandums offered by banks are hiding a looming monster that's building, he said. Yeah, he's right. He's bloody right, that's for sure. I think as people start to return to work, they're going to realize the situation that they're in, and they're going to want to find a way out of it. I'm hoping people are stashing money aside for this now, taking advantage to build up a reserve. You think I'm being naive again, everyone? Way Forward was set up with seed funding from the 4 major banks, and Mr. Berry said he expects the service to only get busier. Remember when the banks were telling people that they had to, were encouraging people to go to the food banks in WA to meet their mortgage repayments? The key to keeping the dominoes upright is employment. Australia already has some of the highest household debt levels in the world. We owe more than $2 in debt for every single dollar we earn. Total Australian household debt is $2,510 billion, according to the ABS. Reserve Bank Deputy Governor Guy Debella told Background Briefing that right now everything hinges on employment. And employment, well, according to the ABS, it's at 7.2%. You look at the Roy Morgan combined unemployment and underemployment, it's about 25% of the workforce. Job ads are in the toilet. They've rebounded 42%. See, that was good news. People are saying I don't give good news videos, and I do. I do good news videos, but no one ever sees them because the YouTube algorithm, no one wants to hear good news. But I mean, okay, 42% jump back up in job ads still pales in comparison to the mountain that we need to climb up again. So, what matters most is your ability to pay your mortgage, is whether you've got a job, whether you've got an income, he said. Obviously, the moment unemployment has gone up, less people have jobs. The big issue is here just how long this goes for and how persistent it's going to be. He said the real unemployment rate was likely higher than the official rate of 7.1% because of JobKeeper. People on JobKeeper aren't necessarily classified as unemployed. The unemployment rate is affected by the JobKeeper program in particular. The Reserve Bank has acknowledged that the economy will need to be supported by lower interest rates and government stimulus for the foreseeable future. Prime Minister Scott Morrison announced earlier this week that the government intended to introduce some support after much of the current stimulus package ends in September. At the moment, stimulus also means adding eye-watering levels of government debt to the balance sheet, perhaps $1 trillion of it. That's not a problem, according to some economists, such as Bill Mitchell, Emerite Professor of Economics at Newcastle University and one of the early founders of MMT, Modern Monetary Theory. There's no question that the government can meet all of its liabilities, he said. A government like Australia, which issues its own currency, can always pay it out. He said the government could simply get the Reserve Bank to create the currency that's needed. MMT theory has long been ridiculed by most economists as modern magical thinking because simply typing money to existence risks inflation. Well, no, this is the problem. This is the problem. And I'm going to bring a quote here from Cantillon. His effect is that there's a change in relative prices resulting from a change in money supply. So we're seeing that in property. That's where a lot of our money supply gets created, through the creation of borrowing here by Australians and foreigners coming in and borrowing through our banks. We're getting a bubble. Now, here we go. We've got the old school definition. The Austrian approach to definition is that an increase in the money supply results in inflation. MMTers don't say that. They don't believe that that results in inflation. They're saying inflation is the increase in the cost of goods. So there's different theories to economics. Different theories to economics. So MMT supporters say inflation is the last of our worries right now. Well, no, it's not. Not to people who are struggling to eat. Not to people who are finding their power bills going up. Then inflation is a very real issue. And it's also hidden tax. It's hidden. It removes the purchasing power of your money. But even if you accept that the Reserve Bank can magically type money into existence, that's a luxury households don't have. Household debt relies on income from jobs. Professor Mitchell believes the way out of the pandemic recession is for the government to fund unconditional jobs for anybody who wants them. That income support then provides a sort of buffer to the economy, he said. The Reserve Bank's deputy governor isn't entirely dismissive of Bill Mitchell's belief that we don't need to worry about government debt. A reasonable amount of what they're saying is not different from the way I would think about it, and the way a lot of people think about it. It's a matter of degree, Mr. DeBell said. If you borrow too much, then there's inflatory, or you're Argentina, and you default. There are plenty of examples where there are clearly limits. The question is where those limits are. Well, you don't know the limits until you hit them. So, there you have it, everyone. An example of, well, just the cliff that we're in. The impending, debt time bomb that we have. What do you all think? Where do you think the end game for this is? And I'm going to the wrong screen. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and want to support the content I create here, there are a few ways you can. You can join the channel on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us via using our affiliate links at Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or Kucoin. You can buy our merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Thanks, everyone. I'll see you next time.